One fact that I couldn't believe with the older demographic and they were strength training, and then there was this segment of them that went on bed rest for, I think, a week or 10 days, and how much muscle that they lost. And I noticed that when I just, if I work out every day, but if I go on a vacation and I come back, you can tell quickly, especially with strength training, how much you can lose very quickly. I'd love for you to explain that study a little bit. How fast can you get that muscle back? The fact that you've gained it, is it easier to get it back quicker?
Yeah, a couple of interesting things in there. So yeah, for one, this was an anecdote that I heard from a guy named Luc van Loon, who's a researcher in the Netherlands. And he had spent 6 months and a ton of resources doing supervised strength training with older adults, trying to see, can we get them to put on muscle? And they had this huge success where it's like, yes, we worked so hard. And after 6 months, they put on, I can't remember what it was, 3-4 pounds of muscle. And then the same day those results came in, he had another study and his student came back and said, hey, we got the results from the study. The people who were 1 week of bed rest, and they lost like twice as much of that muscle. So they lost it way faster. Like you lose, if you're not moving at all, if you're doing what we're doing here, sitting in our chairs all day, you lose muscle extremely quickly, and and that's muscle you have to work so hard to get back. Now, to your last question, is it easier to get muscle back after you've had it before? The answer is yes. This is some it's pretty interesting research in the last, let's say, 10 years. This idea of muscle memory. Do your muscles remember that they used to be bigger, and so they're ready to go back to that? And it turns out, and I'm not an expert in muscle physiology, but basically, when you put on muscle, your muscle fibers get bigger, but you also grow new muscle fibers. And when you grow a new muscle fiber, you have to produce what's called a satellite cell, which is basically the nucleus of a new muscle fiber. When you lose muscle, the muscle fibers shrink and in some cases disappear, but the nucleuses don't go away. Those new nucleuses you produced stay for years. And so that makes it much easier for them to expand again and form the center of a new muscle cell when you put on weight. So that is a relatively new physiological explanation for the observed fact that people who have had muscle can put it back on. Because it's tricky when you do these studies, right? Like, if you find a bunch of people who have muscle, it may just be that they're the type of people who put on muscle easily. But now they have. So it was never quite clear whether this was a real phenomenon or just sort of a fluke. But it does appear that, yeah, if you've had muscle, you'll have an easier time putting it back on. But it will never be as easy as it is to lose that muscle. So we're kind of stuck on that treadmill, and anytime you get off the treadmill, you're losing ground.